Brian Flores, former head coach for the Miami Dolphins, appeared on numerous morning shows to talk about his class action lawsuit filed against the NFL for racial discrimination. This is what he had to say to CBS.
You filed this lawsuit, which you are aware is obviously going to have enormous repercussions. What was the tipping point for you, through your experiences, that made you feel this was something you needed to do?
Well, I mean, just, I've been on, several interviews over the years. And look, I mean, we didn't have to file a lawsuit for the world to know that there's an issue from a hiring and firing practices in the National Football League.
Why? That's correct. A lot of people have pointed this out. So why did you feel you needed to do this?
Because we need change. That was the number one reason. And I know there's a sacrifice, there's risk to that, but at the end of the day, we need change. We need change. I know many very capable black coaches, some of my staff who I know, if given an opportunity or when given an opportunity, are going to go and do a great job on their interview. And I would just hate for that to be a waste. And I think, we need to change the hearts and minds of the people making those decisions. That's why we filed the lawsuit.
Who are those people? Who specifically do you think needs the change?
The owners of the NFL.
If you will ever coach in the National Football League again?
I'm hopeful that I will. I'm very hopeful. But I understand the risks of filing a lawsuit like this. But I am hopeful that I will. It's something I'm passionate about. But if change comes, and if I never coach again and there's change, it'll be worth it.
We were in.
All right, folks, let's get right into it with our legal panel, which we have every single Wednesday. A. Scott Bolden, former chair, National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Robert Patillo, he's executive director, Rainbow Push Coalition, Peachtree Street Project. Monique Presley, legal analyst and crisis manager. All right, folks, let's get right into it. Scott, you've looked at the lawsuit, you've read it, 58 pages. Clearly, he did not play around. He did not take this thing lightly. And he's also looking for other folks to join him in going after the NFL. Your thoughts?
He's got a lot of facts in the complaint. I think he's pled enough facts to get past what we call a motion for summary judgment. It's a class action lawsuit. Getting a certified class is really tough, very high bar. But if he gets enough people to come forward, he can certainly try it. He's got a very fine firm representing them. But let's be honest. The reason this lawsuit is blowing up is because it peels the scab of racism out of the image of the NFL. The NFL has one image, 70% black ball players. It has another image, all white owners and majority white coaches. And so it really hits home the heart of the NFL of what they're concerned about. And if you read the facts about the interviews with one team, I think it was the Giants, they showed up inebriated.
No, that was Broncos. No, that was Denver Broncos. He alleged that was Denver Broncos.
Then one of the teams, but he's pleading with specificity. That's hard to get around. Now, of course, the NFL and the other teams are going to deny that, and we'll have to see what happens. But the fact of the matter is, race discrimination in employment, but also in the hiring, are colorable claims, cognizable claims, and we'll have to see what the court says and how far they get. If I was a betting person, I think they try to settle with him. But if he's on a mission with this lawsuit, then he's probably not going to settle, and we're going to see more action down the line.
Monique, the thing here is one of the things I think is important is that Brian Flores is doing what Colin Kaepernick did not. And that is, he is doing media. Kaepernick filed a lawsuit, he had his attorneys out there. No, Flores is out there as the face. That was ESPN. He was on, which is the partner of the NFL. He went on CBS This Morning show. Partner of the NFL, was on CNN as well. He is doing these media appearances, speaking in his own voice, saying, yes, I am putting my career, he's only 40 years old, on the line. And so what you've seen is you've now seen Marvin Lewis, who was the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, talk about essentially a fraudulent interview that he did with the Carolina Panthers when he was brought in. Hugh Jackson talked about when he was asked to tank games and get paid for it by the Cleveland Browns as well.
It's almost as if it was a strategy that was years in the making. If I were a person who was devising a strategy for how the NFL could be vulnerable to lawsuit, I certainly would be shopping around with assistant coaches who are talented and with college coaches who should be brought up and tracking what happens in the interviews, whether they're taken seriously or not, whether they're given opportunities or not. The way that the lawsuit and the media is rolled out, it's obvious that a great deal of thought was put into it and that it wasn't something that they just up and pull the trigger on for Black History Month, and it's methodical and it's very detailed. And I agree with Scott. There will have to be some answering. I wish I could say, though, that I believe legally that there was sufficiency to go the distance. I'm not sure about that at all, but I think that the damage is so severe and the facts are so ugly that if they were smart, they would not just settle, but make some promises. They should have a settlement that involves equitable remedies going forward, meaning changes to their way of doing business.
Robert, here's the deal. That was 20 years ago. What I mean by that is this year is the 20th anniversary of Johnny Cochran and Cyrus Mehri stepping forward, threatening to sue the NFL unless they made changes to the hiring of Black coaches as well as Black executives. The NFL agreed to their report, put these changes in place, voted on it in December of 2002. Cyrus Mehri, that attorney, one of those attorneys, will be on this show tomorrow to talk about that. Over the years, they made more changes to it. But the reality is the NFL owners who control the league, they flouted the rules. They don't care. When John Gruden was hired with the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, they didn't even bother. Mark Davis said, we're targeting John Gruden. John Gruden signed him to a 10-year, $100 million contract. He was all good. They didn't consider anybody Black. They interviewed the Black tight end coach who didn't even realize there was a job posting, and the NFL did nothing. So the reality is, the longer they've gone on with the Rooney Rule, the teams have basically just ignored the Rooney Rule. It hasn't done anything for them, and the NFL has never punished the teams because it's kind of hard to punish the teams when the teams are actually your boss.
Well, look, Roland, I think I'm far more optimistic about the chances of this suit than many people, just because of the nature of what they pled. So they pled a 1981 action. They have another cause of action under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But I think most importantly is the EEOC action that they filed, because with the EEOC action, all you have to do is go to the EEOC, get a right to sue letter that gets you to bounce into federal court. If you can just show that there's a disparate impact to the actions of the defendant in the case, well, that you should be enough to get you past a motion for summary judgment and to get you into discovery. That is what the NFL fears more than anything else, discovery. They feared in the Gruden case. That's why they always try to settle cases like this, because if you get a hold of those internal emails, text messages, meetings, records, those sorts of things, then you get to see exactly how deep the rot goes. And let's just give some examples from the last couple years. Houston Texans. Bill O'Brien runs the team into the ground. They bring in David Culley just as a Black person, and they set him up to lose, and then they fire him immediately when he loses with the sorry team you gave him. You can look at a team like the Atlanta Falcons, my team. We fired Dan Quinn last year. We let Raheem Morris coach the team. He did a great job coaching the team. Instead of simply allowing him to keep coaching the team, they fired him and brought in a white person. You can look at Lovie Smith in Chicago, fired after a 10-win season. Jim Caldwell in Detroit, fired after taking Detroit Lions to the playoffs. You can look at Steve Wilkes in Arizona, bring him in for 1 year, give him a sorry quarterback like Josh Rosen, and then fire him for Cliff Kingsbury. Even if you look and on the other side of things, they keep talking about this concept of a meritocracy as if they were simply hiring the best and brightest. The two Super Bowl coaches, Sean McVay, the reason he's a coach who's the same age as me is because his grandfather, John McVay, was the coach of the Giants and the GM of the 49ers, so they put him in the system and bump him to the top of the line. The other coach, coach. Zach Taylor, the Cincinnati Bengals coach. You mentioned Marvin Lewis earlier. Why is he a coach? Because his father-in-law was Mike Sherman, who was the coach of the Packers, and they put you at the front of the line. So being an NFL veteran, African-American, who's done exemplary work as a coordinator, worked your way up the line, doesn't get you in front of somebody's son or somebody's grandson. Well, I think that's very clear evidence of disparate impact that gets you past a motion for summary judgment and gets you into the discovery phase. Now, I think once that discovery opens up, we're going to see the gates of hell open for the NFL. And what Flores has made very clear is he doesn't care about the money. He is here to make change and to make a point. They did not ask for damages in the complaint because they want equitable relief, and that equitable relief will come after they get into the discovery process and can show the world what the NFL has really been doing. Think about what a couple emails from John Gruden did earlier this year and now or last year. And imagine what happens when all the internal communications of the NFL are made public. It's going to blow up the entire league, and that's what they're afraid of.
Well, first of all, the John Gruden is suing the league, so there's been no settlement there. The thing here, when we talk about this particular case, that we have to understand is that the NFL has been claiming all of these different, oh my goodness, we're about diversity. They painted in racism in the end zones in every stadium this year. You see them embracing all these black folks performing at halftime. But the reality is, when you look at the numbers, they don't lie. The numbers also don't lie where black coaches outperform, but they don't get the exact same shot. I mean, to the point that Robert Mays got, look, I'm from Houston. The Houston Texans, David Culley was a wide receivers coach at the Baltimore Ravens, was not considered by anybody to become a head coach. The Texans hired him, and again, lasted 1 year, then they fired him. Right now, they are considering as a serious finalist, Josh McCown, who played 20 years in the NFL, has never coached in college, has never coached in the pros, to become their head coach. Black coaches are going, are you serious? I got to put in the dudes, and you're going to hire some dude who played 20 years and has never coached on any level other than as a volunteer on the high school level. And so I think what's important here is that what Brian Flores is saying, I am putting my career in jeopardy, but somebody needs to take this step. And they tried to mediate this for 20 years with the Rooney Rule. It didn't work. A lawsuit seems to be the only thing to get their attention.
Well, the Rooney Rule was an experiment. And every experiment, once it runs its course, is going to have some adjusting or lawsuit.
They've adjusted it. They've adjusted it multiple times over the last 20 years. And now there's one black head coach in the NFL. In the last 2 cycles, 16 head coaches have been fired, 1 black.
But you're absolutely right about that. So the numbers don't lie.
Sorry, 16 coaches hired, not fired. 16 hired, 1 black. Go ahead.
But let's think about the NFL and the environment. They have an antitrust exception, right? The billionaires, 27 billionaires, who are used to hiring and firing because of whatever reason they feel. They're completely unregulated, right? They pay the NFL, Goodall, right? They're his bosses, if you will. And so insidious racism and discrimination, supremacy, and white privilege is going to run rampant in that environment. You don't have one black owner, and even if you did have black owner, it really wouldn't matter. And so we shouldn't be surprised that this has come to a lawsuit. These are really open secrets. We haven't even begun to talk about owners offering Flores and others $100,000 to throw games.
To lose.
Well, which Congress is going to be interested in, to throw games in order to bastardize the draft process. You lose more, you get a higher draft pick.
And if you're the black coach, you lose your job.
And get fired.
Same thing happened
Exactly.
to Marvin Lewis and
But
Hugh
you're going
Jackson.
to get fired after 1 year anyway, whether you got a good team or bad team. The history that we just heard, the history of black coaches being fired after 1 year when they've had challenging coaching jobs and teams, it just makes no sense. Those are great facts, right? And you don't need certification or letter to sue from the EEOC, but I like that EEOC piece being in there because they've pled enough facts. In 1981, they can meet those standards with those facts as well. And so let's not be surprised. What we ought to be watching is who else joins the lawsuit or brings their own separate lawsuit, because then Goodell has a problem, right?
And
Because the discovery, the emails, and what have you, the plaintiffs are gonna get that, and then it's gonna blow the cover off the insidious and the inside track that we never see called the NFL.
But here's the thing, Monique, that it's not just, we talk about the EEOC, the New York Human Relations Commission. First of all, they filed this lawsuit in federal court in New York, okay? That's where the NFL is headquartered. Second of all, the New York Human Relations Commission has been extremely aggressive on matters like this. So by putting those two together, a federal lawsuit and also seeking redress with the Human Relations Commission, it also is forcing this thing further in the light, as opposed to the NFL just saying, oh, we can try to get it dismissed in court. That you can try that. You still got to deal with the Human Relations Commission.
Right. No, and I don't know that the discovery standards are the same, but I agree with Scott and with Robert that this case absolutely should make it through to discovery. My only issue and concern is we seem to, I recall, say the same thing about Colin Kaepernick's suit, and that once we got into the discovery, we would be peeling back all of the hideousness of the NFL and et cetera and so on. And looking at the fruit of all of that labor, I don't believe that we have much to show for it. So I hope that this turns out differently, but I don't believe that there are just idiots in Idiotville who are writing in the emails, let's make sure we don't pick the black guy. So I'm not waiting for that kind of smoking gun. I'm happy to see whatever there is there.
Well, based upon those John Gruden, Bruce Allen emails, that sucker might be there.
well,
we can only pray.
And remember, those emails weren't just in the last couple of years. Those went back more than 10 years. And so that's what you did. You know, there were more than 300,000 emails the NFL went through. So it's a whole lot they could be looking at. Go right ahead, Robert.
But there are a million emails. Remember that.
Yeah, and that's the point that I was going to make. Just think about the controversy with the Washington football team or the Washington Commanders now, or they fought tooth and nail not to have discovery come out because of their sexual harassment issues. If they're able to get class certification in this case, and I think you can find enough black potential head coaches or potential offensive coordinators who have been part of those sham interviews that they talked about. Because remember, this isn't just head coaching. You have one African-American head coach right now, but even look at offensive coordinators. You got Eric Bieniemy and Byron Leftwich. They look at defensive coordinators. I think there's about 8. If you look at special team coaches, you have about 4 African-Americans. So it's all the way down the line. So it's not simply former head coaches that can be part of this class. It can be any of those individuals who felt like they've been passed over for racial reasons to join in to become part of class certification. Once you do that, now you, instead of just pursuing the Broncos, the Dolphins, and the Giants, you can bring in all the teams who wronged those people also and make it a league-wide issue. And I think that's where you go, where you start getting to that blow-up point. To Monique's point, the difference between the Colin Kaepernick case and this one is this is a lot bigger, a lot deeper, and by seeking class certification, you really do make it an existential threat to the NFL's organization.
Oh, it's also, Scott, real quick.
If I don't want to hire you and I hire somebody else, haven't broken the law. If I don't hire you because you're black, right, then I've broken the law. I violated the EEOC in 1982. That's a fine distinction, and the NFL owners are going to be arguing that in this lawsuit.
But if based upon your own rules, you are to grant interviews, they're supposed to be serious. If you're able to show, y'all already decided you were going to hire somebody like Brian Flores has alleged, like Marvin Lewis has alleged, and you're bringing in people with these fake interviews.
Okay, but
I'm not done. If you bring people in for fake interviews and then the NFL does not take action against them as their rules say they are supposed to, then you have that problem as well. The NFL, there's a reason why, and again, tomorrow we will have on the attorney, Cyrus Meary, who worked with Johnny Cochran to put these rules in place. He's a co-founder of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, which has also worked with the NFL to oversee this. And so if they are able to show a pattern where you had fake interviews, interviews, they were not real, then, and they can say, hey, NFL, these are your own rules. Your teams broke these rules. Why did you not penalize them for doing so? They're going to have to explain that, which is the point why he expanded this thing beyond just head coaching to assistant positions as well. And so it's going to be more talk about it again.
But he doesn't benefit from that.
Who?
He doesn't benefit from that financially. That's a persuasive fact of the lawsuit.
Well, but he
doesn't benefit from that.
From what?
He doesn't benefit from them finding, you gave fake interviews and therefore you violated the Rooney Rule. The NFL can charge the players, the team, but Flores doesn't benefit from that.
Well, maybe the
equitable relief from that.
Well, maybe the point here is Flores is not trying to see him benefit personally. He's trying to change the system. And so again,
he'll never coach again.
Well, here's the deal. Scott, he's already acknowledged that. But here's the deal. It's a whole bunch. Look, I can tell you right now that the black folks who led the Polaroid revolutionary workers who went after Polaroid and tried to get them to divest in South Africa, guess what? They didn't work again. But you know what they did? They started a worldwide change to divest in South Africa, which led to apartheid coming down. Sometimes you got to put some shit on the line, and you may lose yourself, but you're changing the system. That's why Brian Flores is doing it, and he actually articulated that in all of his interviews. He said, somebody has to step up and change this. I'm the man for these times.
Are you lecturing me on why he filed a lawsuit? That's not even what I'm talking about.
You focused on money. Scott, you brought up money. I'm bringing up him wanting to change the system. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Like, wow, Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?